Well, welcome everyone. Thanks for joining us here at Howler Bike Park for the 2024 EMTB Shootout presented by Fox Racing and Schwalbe Tires. Today's review is going to be focusing on the 170/160 millimeter Salsa Notch that's coming in at $59.99. Let's get into it.
Yes, this is the Salsa Notch in their $5,999 Deore spec. It's a big burly machine and it weighs in at one of the highest weight figures in our group test. It's got a Bosch CX Gen 4 drive unit powered by a 500 watt-hour internal power tube battery, but then it can be boosted by a further 250 watt-hours with the provisions made for a 250 watt-hour range extender.
Let's talk on the weight, obviously, because it is 57.8, I believe, with the 500 watt-hour battery, and then 61 and change with the range extender. So,
which is the heaviest on our test this year, but it's safe to say that Salsa's really focused on making the Notch a big, burly, hard-hitting bike, and it can be boosted from the 160/170 configuration you see here to a 180 and up to a 200mm dual crown fork up front. So clearly this is a bike that's really made to be shredded.
And speaking of big, sizing, we will have the geo charts for this bike and all the bikes available at the loamwolf.com. So you can go in there and dive deep into all the numbers, but this is a size medium, which is, I would say, longer than just about every size large we have, right? At 598?
499 mil.
Sorry.
Yeah, 499 mil for this size medium is the longest bike that we have on test, and yeah, it's a size medium. It's got an 80-degree seat tube angle, so actually when you're pedaling it, it doesn't feel that crazy because you are nice and upright in that seated position, but 499 mil is a crazy reach number.
It is a big, long bike for sure, but let's head out to the trails, put some time in on the mountain, and see how this thing performs and give you our thoughts.
Dropping in through the jumps here at Bentonville on the Salsa. Ooh. Man, it doesn't feel too sluggish so far.
Ooh. How does she descend?
Actually, quite impressive. Given budget spec, fairly high overall weight, it retains enough agility, even though it's got almost 500mm reach, to still be pretty fun. And yeah, you do need to feel like you need to get it up to speed before it starts coming alive a little bit, but once it's up to speed, it feels pretty fun. I have felt maybe this Bosch motor, you know, we've been setting all these bikes up with the app to maximum power for everything. Maximum power, maximum sort of support level as well. And I feel like this is maybe still not quite as fast, and I don't know if that's something to do with the 500 watt-hour battery that is fitted to this. Maybe not discharging quite as fast, but yeah, it doesn't feel quite as powerful as some of the other Bosch units for sure.
So the Salsa Notch, guys, again, a bike that we didn't really know existed, I guess partially because it was brand new and just got released at Sea Otter when we picked it up. But when we brought it home, showed up from Sea Otter, what did you guys think when you first saw it, getting on it and putting miles on?
It was a bike that I least wanted to ride. It did not entice me at all. Just
Okay.
seeing the spec on it and then reading the geo, I was like, oh my goodness, that is massive. But then things changed as soon as we threw a leg on it, and it was a pleasant surprise.
Okay, what surprised you first or most?
How comfortable was climbing.
Okay.
It puts you in a really good seated position, I think. We do have a lot of steer tube spacers on there though too, so that could have played a bit of a role. And then just going downhill too, that Domain Gold works well, and I was not anticipating that. I was expecting like RockShox 35 level performance.
I do think what RockShox has done with that new Domain is pretty impressive. It does feel like a more expensive fork than it is. For me, I did find As a rider who's on the heavier side of the spectrum at 220 pounds, I found the balance of support and comfort on that fork was kind of hard to find. I'd opted to go for the slightly less supportive end of things to match the rear end, which I thought was pretty nice and fluttery and smooth, but not necessarily razor sharp. But yeah, the result was a very comfortable machine, both up and down the hill, and even the geometry, 499 reach on this is a long bike. Doesn't feel like that because of the other contributing factors. Does feel quite heavy though, I would say.
Yeah, and to be fair, it is heavy, right? It's 58 pounds with just the 500 watt-hour battery and 61 pounds with the 250 extender. So a 750 battery puts it at, similar battery capacity to the other full power bikes, but on the heavier end of the spectrum for sure. I'm traditionally not a rider who likes long reach bikes, especially on heavy and on e-bikes. And I instantly felt that this bike had a very comfortable climbing position. The length did bite back in some other aspects, not only descending, but tighter technical bits of climbing, areas where I wanted to try to maneuver on some tight turns. But like, if you're just kind of sitting and, pedaling away on kind of more gradual climbs or even some real steeper pitches, the climbing position with that steep C-tube angle, and again, we've got kind of a high bar height on it right now, did work really well. Pedaling traction I thought was also great because that rear suspension platform is so smooth and active, which is great downhill and uphill. It just made for a comfortable and, ground hugging ride. But yes, then flipping over to the descending side of things, I was also actually pretty impressed with how smooth and plush the bike felt. It wasn't the most easy to maneuver because of the length and the weight, but I could definitely see a lot of people enjoying having a long, stable, kind of forgiving e-bike experience.
The weight and the suspension platform are detrimental on mellower sections of trail. They're detrimental on the times that you're trying to gain speed from the terrain, but once you're up to speed and you let this thing charge, it does exactly that. It's got plenty of end stroke support as well. I started hitting some of the bigger features here at Haller Bike Park on it, and I was quite comfortable in doing so. So I think if you're a rider who's maybe not looking to be ultra playful or necessarily at the hot end of the race spectrum, and you just want something that's going to be comfortable and capable, I do think it's a pretty killer rig, especially below that $6,000 price tag.
How about when it came time to scrubbing all that speed and slowing down for a turn?
Yeah, the brakes weren't fantastic. Definitely could do with an upgrade there. It's probably the first thing I'd choose to spend money on to improve on it. But
okay,
I think if you're not looking to charge the steepest and fastest terrain, then the brake's probably going to be fine, and the rest of the spec kind of matches it pretty well as well.
As it sits now with this price, this weight, and the performance, what are your kind of final thoughts on this thing? And maybe the ideal consumer.
I think for the price, it's slightly over budget than what some of the other builds offer in this sort of category. But that said, it's still a very capable, confident, inspiring bike, and I think it would be better suited towards maybe somebody just getting into like enduro, aggressive e-bike riding, and then just your everyday consumer that isn't looking to go shred all the trails all the time.
I'd say out of the sub $6,000 bikes that we have, that's probably the most forgiving. So you could probably take a less advanced rider down the gnarliest trails on this and it'd have their back the most.
Okay.
Obviously, there's a couple of others that we'll get onto later down the line, but yeah, I think it's definitely a solid bike for maybe a slightly less experienced or less hard charging rider.
Yeah.
Part spec for the money though, not fantastic on paper. I do think the overall feeling and quality on the trail was okay, regardless. Like, the labels on the components only go so far to telling you how they're going to perform, and I do think what Salsa selected with this is solid for sure.
Okay.
It ran pretty quietly and smoothly throughout, but yeah, I think a lot of people may complain compared to some of the other bikes that we have in this category.
Sure.
How cheap, budget, entry level, whatever you want to call it, the price spec is.
Yeah.
Component spec is.
I think I can absolutely see where you're coming from in terms of kind of stability from the length, the plushness of the suspension platform, you know, kind of for saving the newer riders, the ones that are looking for more confidence, longer travel type of a bike. The flip side to that is weight, obviously. Keeps the bike more stable and more planted, but it also requires more rider input to change lines, to avoid an obstacle. If they start a corner on a certain arc or radius, and halfway through that turn is a big eroded hole or a sharp rock or something, it's going to require more skill to move that bike out of the line. So I think there is something there worth considering, but overall I do really think it is a stable, planted bike. It offers a very plush and conforming suspension platform that yields itself great to uphill comfort as well as downhill confidence. Like the ground beneath you doesn't really disturb that bike a whole lot. But yeah, if you're looking to, like, you know, nose tap and manual and like cutty stuff around, I think it just requires more effort.
100%, but
it can be done.
It can be done. Just, yeah, like you say, maybe it's just a good workout tool. It's gonna get stronger if you're trying to do that kind of stuff in this bike.
Yeah, right on. Okay, well, folks, there it is, the Salsa Notch. Again, please stay tuned for the rest of the series to see how this bike stacks up. Thanks again to Howler Bike Park for hosting us here in the Shootout Series. And of course, a huge thank you to Schwalbe for equipping all these bikes with the same Magic Mary tire combo, and Fox Racing for the awesome gear and protection here. We'll see you guys in the next video and out on the trails.